Hi again. It's still July 18th. I've been reading, and you know when you get inspired? You just get inspired when you start reading. I don't know what happens to you. For me, when I'm reading or taking in information, it triggers in me this other thought and then another thought, and then I'm speaking out loud my thoughts and realizing that I just want to capture it, right? I want to, and writing, it feels like it takes so long. So I really appreciate this medium to be able to capture my thoughts in a more, just in a faster manner, I guess. So I'm reading Women Who Run with the Wolves. And it's such a great book. Such a great book. Because it talks about, I'm still in the first chapter, which is The Howl, the Resurrection of the Wild Woman. But as I'm reading it, right, I wonder if the writer, she talks about the feminine, right? And the feminine energy. The female archetype. And when I use Post-its, then I highlight and underline and write all over the books. But I couldn't help but think and wonder, and still this internal belief that this healing of the feminine is the healing within all of us, the feminine within all of us, right? It's not just the man or it's the female energy within all of us, right? That the part that is connected to the emotion, to giving ourselves permission, right? Even within the female body, right? There are women who embody a more masculine energy and who get judged for that because it's overpowered, right? To a certain degree, or overemphasized. Not overpowered, but just overemphasized because it's had to be, right? Over the course of history and time and the evolvement of mankind with the wars and the impact on the men in our lives, right? Having gone to war and having to shut off that emotional part of themselves to survive, and then women having to embrace more of the masculine energy with the work and the labor and the, having to join the workforce, right? And then having to rebalance that after the wars, right? And I'm remembering that dream that I had of those 3 soldiers and one of them being severed in half. Even with slavery, it happened to both men and women of that culture. Don't mind that noise, that's the dryer. But anyways, so in here I'm just making notes, right, of what she's saying, and so there's this quote of some of the symptoms of a disrupted relationship with the wildish force in the psyche pertaining to women. She's focusing on women. But as I was reading it, it's not just the woman. It really isn't. It's the feminine energy within us all, right? That part of ourselves that allows us, that gives us permission to be crazy, or wild, or creative, or just that fun side that comes out naturally, right? That playfulness. so there's this other part. So that's why I'm looking at it, right? And then I just finished reading something that just triggered something else in me. In terms of women, in terms of feminine energy, really, not just women, but the feminine energy. It says, so the whole premise of this book is that there's different legends, right? And she's connecting the different legends within the different cultures and kind of showing the similarities, really. Close this time. Showing the similarities of this woman archetype, right? This feminine energy, if you will, and even, you know, tapping into. So the premise is that the feminine side of ourselves, she's referring to women, but really the feminine side of ourselves has the ability to connect with source, right? With our psychic side. Yeah, that world that we don't see. And so when we're blocked off emotionally, we don't have access to it, right? That's what I'm understanding. That we don't have access to that part of that connection, really, right? I mean, even in the Bible, right? It talks about love. It talks about unconditional love. And it's through love that you connect to God, right? So it's emotion, basically. It's through emotion that you connect with source. When you learn how to love unconditionally. When you learn how to love unconditionally with no judgments. Because loving unconditionally is no judgments. No judgments. You're just accepting what is to be exactly what it's supposed to be. Right? Because like what I mentioned earlier, what I heard from someone, if we're able to stay neutral, right? Because the world is going to be full of highs and lows, right? And if we're constantly responding to the highs and lows, then we're constantly going like this, right? But if we're able to stay neutral with whatever goes on around us, nothing will faze us. We're just accepting the situation for what it is. So anyways, so she's talking about the feminine, right? Or this archetype. And so in this particular chapter, she's talking about La Loba, the wolf, right? The female wolf, who is supposedly an old woman, and it talks about like bones and putting together, right? This legend of La Loba, that she is a collector of bones, and preserves what is in danger of being lost in the world. And her cave is filled with bones of all manner, of all creatures, but her specialty is wolves. And so her task is to put all of these bones together to bring it back to life, basically, to breathe the soul back into it. And so it was just, and then there's examples that she gives, this author gives, in terms of the myth, the world, the stories that we're raised to believe in, right? Like she goes into Egyptian mythos, with Isis. I guess Isis accomplishes the service for her dead brother Osiris, who is dismembered by his evil brother Set every night. Isis works from dusk to dawn each night to piece her brother back together again before morning, else the sun will not rise. Christ raised Lazarus, who had been dead so long he stinketh. Demeter calls forth her pale daughter Persephone from the land of the dead once a year, and La Loba sings over the bones. So it's this continued theme, these similarities of these individuals, right, in different cultures, in different religions, in different beliefs, who in essence do the same thing. It just looks a little bit different. And so then she continues to write, this is our meditation practice as women, but I prefer to replace the word woman with the feminine energy. within us all, calling back the dead and dismembered aspects of ourselves, calling back the dead and dismembered aspect of life, right? Because through now we can get into the more biological sense of ourselves, right? Females carry life. Well, and so do men, though. Men carry life as well. It just looks a little bit differently. They have the potential for life, right? And so do women. And so in essence, then, we are all calling back those parts of dismembered parts of ourselves, those dead parts of ourselves, to bring back to life. And then she says, the one who recreates from that which has died is always a double-sided archetype. The creation mother is always also the death mother, and vice versa. Because of this dual nature or double tasking, the great work before us is to learn to understand what around and about us and what within us must live and what must die. Our work is to apprehend the timing of both, to allow what must die to die and what must live to live. So in essence, we're having to constantly rebalance ourselves, realign ourselves with ourselves, right? Because there's this pendulum of just how we do life. And so there's going to be elements of our life that are going to continue to help us to move forward. And then there's going to be elements of our life that are going to hold us back. And that's, I think, what she's meaning in terms of what are we continue to breathe life into, right? To continue to give us life. And what are we supposed to leave behind to die, to let go of, to release, right? Of that which no longer serves us, to release that which holds us back. And as I'm reading this paragraph, because all of this was just triggered by one paragraph, I am reminded of this painting that I can't let go of, that I'm being told that I need to let go. And I can't let it go, because this is what it means. This is what this stands for, is the feminine within each of us, the feminine that is needing healing, the parts of ourselves, right? I mean, she's running to the past. She's running towards the water for that emotional healing, and she's looking up. She's desiring that connection to source. I wonder, I was just thinking about it. I wonder about the artist who created this masterpiece, really. I never got a chance to ask about that time period in the artist's life when this was created. Sometimes I like to know about that, you know, where the inspiration came from. And I was telling my sister-in-law, who was telling me to let it go. I was like, I can't let it go. I said, maybe one day I'll donate it to the museum, because I see it in a museum one day. I see it in a museum one day. I can't let it go. Because it's a constant, you know, she asked me, is that where you're at? And I know I said no. But the thing is, like what the book is saying, it's an ongoing, to find your balance is an ongoing task, because life will always have those ups and downs, and there's always going to be something that triggers us. There's always going to be an opportunity to learn. And so there's always going to be an element of parts of ourselves that we might get lost if we're too caught up on one side or the other. You know, there's this other part that I read about balance. Where was it? It was a dance. That mother, that the female does, really. This dance to rebalance things when things become unbalanced. I don't remember what it said, but I just read it too. Yeah. And then I love this quote. The old one, the one who knows, is within us. She thrives in the deepest soul psyche of all. It says of women, but it's really of all of us. The ancient and vital wild self within us all. Her home is that place in time where the spirit of the feminine energy, it says the spirit of women, but it's really the feminine in us all, and the spirit of wolf meet, the place where mind and instincts mingle, where a feminine's deep life funds her mundane life. It is the point where the I and the thou kiss, the place where in all spirit, the feminine energy runs with the wolves. We're always striving to stay balanced. To be aware of when we lose parts of ourselves in people, in tasks, in obligations, in responsibilities, in ideas. We can easily get caught up in the day-to-day things because it's survival, right? We're just trying to survive. But this really calls us to find that balance, right? Within both energies within us. So that we can connect to source. So that we can reconnect with ourselves, really, right? The kingdom of heaven is within us all. This painting is a beautiful painting. It speaks to those parts of all of us within us. Sometimes the parts we don't want to see, the parts that are hurting, the parts we're afraid to look at because it hurts too much. The wounds are deep. And we're afraid to get lost in the pain. And the confusion. Or the opposite, to get lost in the magnitude of it once you see it. Yeah. So all of that was just inspired by one paragraph. By one paragraph. It's a good book. It's a good book. Definitely recommend it. I would just replace anywhere where it says women who run with wolves, the wild woman archetype, or just reword it, because it's really within us all. This wild woman, this wild feminine energy that's been lost, broken up into pieces over the years. It's within us all. That's all. My name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the